Thank you, Bob. So, obviously, Brian, Aaron did well in the press conference, but my first question to you is, he told the story about how you called him, do you want to be considered? Was he always on your radar that you thought this guy would be a good Yankee manager?
No. Essentially, what we did internally was we assembled a list of candidates that people would recommend and suggest. And there's a lot of people I respect in the game, and his name came up quite often. So initially I was, he wasn't on my list, but various people that I do respect strongly suggested that I talk to him. And as we internally vetted it with my personnel, that was the next stage. A lot of people were like, yeah, they were checking some boxes on, this is a guy I would be interested in what you have to say. So he moved from the potential list to a legitimate interview list, and we moved forward. So I reached out to him, and he was all in, and hoping, I think, to get an interview, and he passed phase one, and then ultimately passed the final test.
Considering that it was his first time going through this whole process, was there any part of you that was surprised how much he stood out throughout the process?
Every aspect of it, to be quite honest. It was hard to believe that this was his, he either prepared extremely well, or he just has, and I do believe this, he has I think a natural ability. I'm not like a Harvard-educated guy, but I do think I kind of have some common sense and street smarts that guide me, and it served me well, and I feel that Aaron has, that little moral compass that no matter what comes his way, I think he aspires to gravitating to the right next step, whatever that is. So I think that came out to me throughout the interview process, and we, as an entire baseball operations department, was very surprised about how well he did, and how many boxes that he actually positively checked. I went into the interview process not expecting anything, to be honest. I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this because enough people told me I need to talk to him. But when he walked out of the process, we all were kind of taken aback about, how good he really was in engaging us. So
now we know the boxes that he checked. I mean, he's got a great personality, a great communicator, baseball history. One box he doesn't check is experience. Are you somewhat reluctant, or did you have trepidation about handing a Bentley to a guy who's just getting his license?
Well, I mean, I think it serves me well never to think that we're a Bentley. I think the best general managers think that you constantly have work to do. But with that being said, of course there's trepidation. The bottom line is, I'm not afraid of taking chances. It just came down to, would I be afraid to go with someone, in Aaron's case, that obviously hasn't managed, despite thinking he was the best person at this time for this franchise as we move forward. And I think, Michael, based on knowing me for years, I'm not afraid of anything. I think my moral compass tells me to do what I think is right at all times, and I think most of the time it's served me well. Yeah, I make mistakes as well, but I am going to go forward with what I think is best. That's what served me as an example in the DD for Shane Green concept. That was a very difficult decision, like every decision, but I think everything we decide to do, whenever we decided to do it, whether it's waiver claims or free agent signs or trades or now managerial change and ultimately a new hire, we're going to do what we think is right, and then we're going to work extremely hard to make sure it plays out that way.
Aaron had told us that as soon as he got the phone call saying that he would be the guy, he immediately thought about getting to work and really hitting the pavement running. Aside from putting together a coaching staff, what's on the agenda? What's the first thing that you feel like you need to do with Aaron?
Well, it is the coaching staff, but also it's plugging Aaron in with all of our systems now and letting him get a real look at what's behind the Iron Curtain, so to speak. And so he's going to spend a great deal of time now closing the gap on everything that we provide and how it's packaged. And then if he, like anything else, we want to make sure the platforms we use are relatable to him and whoever the ultimate coaching staff is going to be. So over time we can twist and turn and change the programming and the packaging for to make sure it resonates the way they want it. But now he's going to have to get a chance to really see what makes us tick. I think there's a lot of alignment already based on how the interview went. But we're never going to agree on everything, and that's fine. The culture we've created here is to have everybody have a platform to push and challenge and to make us better, and he's going to have that same platform. And ultimately, when the games start, the lineup's his, in-game decisions all his, just as it was before him with Girardi and it was before him with Joe Torre. So, but we've got to close the gap now on making sure he gets a chance to see how this engine runs and then how he can help improve it.
I want to piggyback on that, Brian, because it's always a question that's out there, because baseball's different now. A lot of the power is centered in your position and the people that you have around you, and there's no more Earl Weavers and Billy Martins that are doing it by the guts. How much free will does a manager have? If the sheet says you have to do this and he just doesn't feel it's the right thing to do, does he get to do it? Absolutely.
I mean, the sheet, I think, is one aspect. I mean, knowing your personnel is he's going to do as much as he can, closing the gap on. He has a preconceived knowledge of a lot of our players already. He's going to now start building relationships with them this winter as well as spring training, and ultimately then you get the important information from the medical team, which does affect and impact how you utilize, whether it's starters, relievers, position players, and then there's obviously the pro scouting assessment, the player development assessments, and the analytical assessments. And all of it is information that's going to be vital to help guide Aaron. And the person that we're looking for to lead this team, and we've chosen Aaron, is someone that is willing to have every spigot open, to have that information flow properly through, and then because of his intellect, he's going to gravitate to whatever the right decision at that moment in time is, and he's empowered to do that. And I've never dictated anything to my prior managers other than time and effort of walking through a process and making sure those spigots are open, to digest information. Then ultimately they're plug and play. They make the final call on how to guide certain things, but we wouldn't have hired Aaron if we didn't feel that there was an alignment already there or close to there, and we look forward to engaging him and collaborating with him. He's going to be a piece of this puzzle, just like a lot of the people that are already in place.
One thing he said to me after he had interviewed for the job and he talked to the media, that the transition process, there would be some things that he would need to get used to. Running a bullpen, a staff would be one of them. How much of a learning curve are you expecting with him?
Well, you know what? I get a great deal of comfort with Larry Rothschild being in that dugout. Larry's a former Major League manager, obviously, with the Tampa Bay Rays. Larry is, I think, one of the premier pitching coaches in the game. So if there are deficiencies in the experience side from Aaron's place with pitching, I think Larry is to his right there in that dugout, that's going to guide him every step of the way. He knows our players, he knows our pitchers, he knows what makes them tick and how what makes them excel more than others. And so that's why we moved early on to retain Larry Rothschild, despite not having a manager, because he's, using an NFL analogy, he's a tremendous defensive coordinator in our sport. And the defense is our pitching staff, and I think we've got one of the best pitching coaches this industry provides, and so it's just going to be a great, powerful resource for Aaron to utilize.
Brian, this is a positive day for the Yankees. A couple of days ago, kind of a negative day. It seemed like everybody in baseball said the Yankees were going to get Ohtani, and from everything I've heard from people, you guys made an unbelievable presentation. When he says, I don't want to play on the East Coast in a big market, how much does that set you back, and how much of a hole does it cause?
Well, I mean, it certainly turned out to be a lot of false hustle on our part, unfortunately, because of where he played, which is in Japan, and obviously not in a position to engage the potential future Major League candidate that Ohtani is. We had no ability to know that he had no interest in anything East Coast, despite going through these presentations. So listen, we're proud of the step, the foot we put forward. I did tell our staff, if he doesn't pick us, it's not because of us. And it turns out that there's obviously some preordained circumstances that are guiding him, and that's fine. Listen, this franchise sells itself, and 99% of the time, it's been an advantage for us. So, hey, every now and then it's going to be a disadvantage that takes us out of the mix. This is one of those times, but for the most part, we're always in a strong position to be a destination place for anybody. But we did take our steps. We scouted them. We acquired the international slot money for a reason. We put ourselves in the best position, and the presentation was second to none. But at the end of the day, I respect his wishes. Wish him the best. I think he's going to be a terrific major leaguer for somebody. Now we just hope it's the National League.
Brian, thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Thanks so much.